Hello, IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of My Computer Careers, Get Into IT Live, where we do just that, get into all things IT. This is our pre-holiday edition, so obviously thank you for joining us today on your Fridays, especially Friday at lunch hour. We're sure a lot of you have plans for travel next week, so if you're like me, you're looking forward to that, and you're probably halfway there. So thanks for spending 30 minutes with us. I am joined, as you'll see, by Patricia on our social team. Patricia is it's a great big title, social media video content specialist.
You got it.
To shorten that, she expertly runs our TikTok channel and supplies all of kind of the short form video content, among many other things. So Patricia, welcome as always.
Thank you. Hello.
How are things with you?
Good. Excited to chat about this today. It's a hot topic, so I'm ready.
It is a hot topic. So speaking of the hot topic, we are talking about the perils of using AI in the job search. And we're going to get into that just a little bit more here. Just so everybody knows, Patricia's doing double duty. When you see these things pop up, she's not only on screen, she's also producing. She's bringing those up. So
you'll hear a lot of clicking. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So anyway, this topic came up for a few reasons. And just to jump right in, I guess. Again, thanks, everybody. If you have questions, we obviously are monitoring those comments. Actually, let me bring that up just so I can see it. So please ask anything. And we'll do our best to answer those or get those answered for you. Have a little fun while you watch this. So we 2 weeks ago had a recruiter from Whitney Ortiz from Recruit Military. She is a certified professional resume writer with the group, and we got into all kinds of content around, helping folks find a gig. And we got a great question out in the audience, actually from somebody on our team, Austin. Thank you. Should we be using AI to create the resume? And it's something that we didn't think about when creating this event. And we had a really great response for it. So for anyone who missed that, we wanted to show you what that comment looked like.
Yes, she had a great response to that. You should be able to hear the audio. Let me know if you can't.
It's a good tool, but it should not be the tool. And you shouldn't copy and paste, because I can tell right away if you copy it and paste it from ChatGPT, because there is a formula to how it will create your summary section, how it will create your bullet points. But you can use it for inspiration. I personally use it to get some ideas on better ways to word things. If I'm having issues with maybe verbs that I'm using, or how to connect those dots from action to result and make it more concise. So take 4 sentences down to 2 lines. Use it as a resource, but don't use it as the resource. It's a good tool.
So and that really got us thinking. Patricia and I both kind of at the same time came up with, hey, why don't we talk about that topic? So Patricia digs into all kinds of stuff over on TikTok, and recently touched on an article around this topic. So Patricia, you obviously know more than I do about this, but I just think it's very relevant for our audience, because employment tips and resume tips always seem to go really well. And I'm sure you would agree with that.
Absolutely.
All right. So you recently recapped an article from CNBC over on our TikTok channel. Do you mind telling people a little bit more about kind of what you found and what that article looked like?
Yeah, so one of the places that we love to get resources for job hunt, job search, interview tips is CNBC. They are great. They offer a lot of great advice. They talk to so many people, ex-recruiters from NVIDIA, Google, whatever, ZipRecruiter.
Right.
So it's a great resource, and I always try and highlight a couple of these articles in the TikTok videos for sure. And this one is really important, and it touches on a couple of different things that we've talked about, not just on the live, but as a group, using generative AI, ChatGPT, to write your resume and cover letter. But also it brings in the topic of truthfulness in job interviews, which I think is really important as well. So overall, just, how do you answer an employer or a company if they ask you straight up, did you use ChatGPT to write this? And, it's important to be honest. It's important to let people know how much, I guess, you used of ChatGPT.
Sure.
I personally am very similar with what Whitney said. I actually more so use personally ChatGPT as like a thesaurus. Like that is my go-to for just think of helping me figure out words that I just cannot think of myself, or writing things a little bit more eloquently. But it is interesting. You want me to get into some of the statistics within the survey?
Fire away.
Okay. So actually, you know what I will just do is share my screen so you can see what I am seeing, because it is interesting. So far, the survey suggests that roughly 1/5 of job seekers are relying on AI. And this is a statistic that we will see later on. And that number sometimes changes. It's like between 45% to, it is at least around half. And this was a survey from Resume Templates, found that 22% of Gen Z job applicants use ChatGPT, and 18% of US job seekers say that they used ChatGPT to craft resumes and cover letters. And then that actually goes down a little bit the older the job applicant gets, but it's just highlighting the idea of like, okay, is this a good idea? Should people be doing this? And ways to use it effectively. And of course, don't deny using it. That's one of the biggest things.
That's perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. Don't deny using it. It actually creates an opportunity. I don't know if I can't remember if it says in this article, but it creates an opportunity if you're asked to actually pivot and talk about how it makes you more productive and how you do use AI.
It does right above it here. Pivot the conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. My old eyes don't let me see that. I got you.
No, but it is good, because we had that conversation too recently of if you don't use AI at this point, you're behind as far as like the upskilling and then the new job spectrum out there. Everybody's using AI now.
So I guess here's the point, to bring it back to all of you folks, our audience. If you're in the process of trying to find a gig, or you will be soon, and you're worrying about your resume, which all of us do, no way around it. That resume, it's never easy, even though some folks may say it is, and we'll have that conversation maybe a bit later. But just something to pay attention to. That's why we wanted to really call this stuff out. And I also think it's important to mention, the article talks about a lot of positives with using ChatGPT or other generative AI for your resume and for your search, which we're going to touch on a bit later. But you're also going to hear a lot of the same theme as we go through this. And let us know if you kind of pick up on what those themes are around using AI. So, all right. One interesting point worth noting from the article, no matter how, I guess I already hit this one, right? No matter how exciting this new technology is, humans are still in charge of the hiring process, which is why having a robot write your resume is a recipe for disaster. And so, Patricia, I think it kind of leads to you on this next point here on question number 2.
Yes.
Do you have it there?
I do. Well, number 2 is what you just said. So I'm making sure I've got the right numbers here. Do you want to highlight the next article about Gen Z, because that one is.
So maybe mention some of, like, looking at the article. When HR or hiring manager asks you, we talked about kind of AI, right? And talked about how to use it. When HR or a hiring manager, and this is important, asks you about the use of AI in production of a cover letter or resume, the onus is on the job seeker to pivot the AI conversation to make a more compelling point. And this is from ZipRecruiter. Mm-hmm. Applicants should have a talking point prepared to show their use of AI as an example of the familiarity with and embrace of technology trends. Morrison said job seekers that are open about their AI use for administrative and automated tasks, important to remember that, can demonstrate they're prepared to create new avenues of productivity on the job, which obviously is what all jobs want. So that is a very long-winded way to say, make sure that you pivot the conversation to say how you're using AI to your advantage.
Absolutely.
Fair enough? Was that a lot of work?
No, it's not a lot of it's important, because it's something also you mentioned AI adoption in that as well from the article, and just the idea, really driving home the idea that companies should be familiarizing themselves with AI. And I don't think it's inherently bad to admit that you leaned on AI a little bit to help you write
Yeah,
that, because it
fair
does
enough.
just show your upskilling skills.
Okay. All right, love it. So you found another great article, as you do, and this was from CNBC Make It, and it says you should be laser focused. If you're not, you should be laser focused on what to say here. You flagged from Make It one. You should be laser focused on if you're. Yeah, this is for all you folks. If you're out there in the job search, you should certainly be paying attention to this. Is what I'm trying to say. The article's headline: exact same cover letters, word for word. Career consultant says Gen Z are misusing AI. So a little call out of Gen Z there. So
Cool.
before Patricia dives into this one, sorry, Gen Z, but we'll save you a little bit here. Let's share a few stats from the article. And sorry if I'm taking all your thunder here.
No.
45% of job seekers, as Patricia mentioned, have used AI to build, update, or improve the resume. Gen Z is leaning the most on AI, with 61% of this group indicating they can't imagine doing work without AI, doing tasks even without AI. 67% of hiring managers were confident they could spot an AI-generated resume, and that's from the Society for Human Resources Management. All right, so back to the article. What else stood out that folks should be paying attention to here, Patricia?
It's just so interesting. Well, the first thing, I actually saw a TikTok a while ago of a student in college who was flagged for using generative AI because she didn't realize that Grammarly was generative AI.
Crazy.
That's a big one. Everybody just downloads Grammarly as a way to double checks, some typos, or even missed pronunciation, or commas, whatever.
Sure.
But that is generative AI, so that can be flagged if an AI were to do, or if they use some sort of program to check and see if your paper was written for AI and you used Grammarly. That is considered generative AI. So that's the first and foremost. I don't think that that's mentioned in this article, but I have seen that floating around the internet, so it's worth mentioning. But also the idea that Gen Z, where it specifies, and of course this is not all Gen Z people,
Of course not.
and this is a very umbrella term, but the idea that they can't think of the idea of writing something without it. That's fascinating to me. And we actually had somebody on our team mention too that they have some kids in school where teachers want them to handwrite everything to avoid generative AI or any usage of AI. So that's fascinating, but it is apparently getting to a point where it is very noticeable, and so noticeable that some people aren't making it their own. They are reading their friends' essay answers and not changing it at all. They are just sending in the same cover letter word for word to companies, which of course is going to get flagged. That is not good, guys. That's not good.
It's a great comparison. It is. It's a great comparison. And that I think one of the things that you and I went over, one of the stats that I read is, I'll bet you I've seen 100, and it might be in this. There it is, 100 identical responses. 100 identical responses. So ChatGPT is great, but it's kicking out the same jargon for everybody. Pay attention to that. And this may be incredibly obvious to all, but there's very easy ways for folks to take your text, plug it into an AI detector, and see how much of it is generated by AI.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you should shoot for a certain percentage. We're going to find out here in just a minute, though. So did I cover everything you wanted to cover there?
You did. I think it's worth mentioning, though, before we move on, is the idea of cover letters seems, either redundant at this point. Like, do we need cover letters? We've had that conversation before, and we're going to be chatting with somebody too here in a minute who can probably give a better answer to that. But the idea that, well, of course, cover letters are probably going to look a little the same, or they might, they might have the same jargon. Obviously, it's not going to be word for word from ChatGPT, but I still think it's important to write in a cover letter and maybe rely a little bit on ChatGPT just to help you with some of the verbiage. But I could see maybe one side of the argument being, well, don't all cover letters kind of look the same? I guess in a way, but this specifically was identical word for word responses, which is a little different.
Yeah. And I think we could honestly do a whole episode on the cover letter, because, Absolutely. I have some real feelings on it. There's a lot out there. And we've had, as we've had the conversation before. Is there value in it?
Yeah.
I think so. But there's a lot of reasons why. but there's probably a few why not. So to your point,
this
why
is
don't we
exactly what Whitney said, by the way. It should be used as a tool, not a replacement. That is exactly what Whitney said.
That's exactly right. Yep. All right. So Patricia did a wonderful job of foreshadowing a little bit, leading us into this. Since we're focusing obviously on the resume and cover letter, and since Patricia and I, as you probably are aware at this point in the conversation, are certainly not experts around this topic, we thought we'd invite an expert in and kind of hear his thoughts. So without further ado, we are once again joined by our very own Jacob Bonet, who joined us last year, probably around this time. He is a career services specialist with My Computer Career, and he's a professional certified resume writer. So as soon as Jacob joins us, there's a little delay here. We are going to bring him up, and we're going to talk to him about a few things here. So if you have questions for a certified resume writer, this is going to be your time in these next 15 minutes to kind of take in what he has to say and to add a few comments into that section. While Jacob joins, and I think he actually just did. There he is. Say check 1, 2, 3. Can we hear you?
What was that? Sorry. Yeah, there we are.
All right, perfect. We can hear you. Jacob, welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Nice to see you again, Aaron. Nice to see you, Patricia. How have you been?
Good. Nice to see you again. You're one of our most popular guests. So
the
most popular guest.
Jacob holds the big award, the big belt.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I
man.
still wear the belt from time to time.
Yeah, shower.
All right. So you've heard some of what we've been kind of rambling on about. I'm sure that you have some opinions on what we've already discussed. And just so everyone knows, we're kind of just throwing this all at Jacob. We didn't give him any questions in advance, so he's just freestyling here.
Honestly, everything the recruiter said is really on point, right? So we can use AI as a tool, and that makes a whole lot of sense. I would not use it for my resume writing at all. Just because we want to make sure the bullet points are accomplishment based and from the perspective of the actual applicant. So what it is they actually did in that role, because you could have 2 manufacturing associates, but one accomplished more than the other, right? Maybe they delved into more leadership, or maybe they delved more into the finance side of things. And they could have had the same role. So you can't use ChatGPT to figure out those nuances.
Okay,
right?
So bear with us for just a second. What we thought we'd do is have a little fun and do a little rapid fire with you.
Okay.
And ask a few questions around this topic. So I think you just touched on this one. I'll go first.
Sure.
Do you agree with not solely relying on ChatGPT or something similar to create resumes or cover letters? And you did just answer that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'd say use it to get an idea. Don't use it to actually write your resume.
Okay.
Yep. No copy and pasting. See what it has to say and tailor it in your own words.
What's the main problem with doing so?
So, like they had said before, it's going to look the same across the board with many different applicants, especially if you're using the same roles. And so that's not going to help you stand out any. You're not going to be able to give your personal accomplishments when you're doing that. And it leaves out a lot of ways you could sell yourself to the employer, and leaves things just too generic.
Got it. Trisha, you got anything?
Yes. Well, and also you kind of touched on this as well. So I guess I'll skip over that one because it's just asking, should I not use AI at all? But it is interesting why you wouldn't. So I guess that is something to note. How should we be using the technology then?
Sure. Yep. So if you're really struggling with kind of thinking up a summary or an objective, you can use the AI tool to kind of see what they would do. And then think about internally what you have to offer for the employer, and then use that as kind of a guide to structure your own paragraph, right? And don't copy and paste it. Don't use 100% of it or even 90% of it. Tailor it, make it your own, give it your own words. Use it as like a guide and not a copy and paste. Yeah,
love it. So I guess you know this world better than us, certainly. Are hiring managers grumpy about the use of AI, or is it kind of expected these days?
So honestly, everything's going to depend on the recruiter or the hiring manager, depending on who's the one looking at it. But from what I've seen, a lot of the employers I work with, they like to see the effort put in and not to try and take a quick way out.
If you were to get a stack of maybe 10 resumes or cover letters, would you be able to tell which ones are AI? Or are there some that you're like, I don't know, maybe? Like, could you tell the tool against the thief, I guess?
So I've never had someone submit me one that would have been from AI. So I would say I probably would be able to tell that. But most of the time, people, when they send me a resume, they just download their Indeed.com profile and send it over to me.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I'm guilty. I have done that. No way around it. Yeah.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, well, essentially just following the same thing you have either on LinkedIn or Indeed, like the same bullet points, and just plugging it on your resume. Is that what you're saying?
So a lot of times they'll just print out their Indeed profile.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you can download your Indeed profile and then send that out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's 90% of the resumes that get sent to me.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is.
And remind us, Jacob, are you pro cover letter? I guess it depends job by job, but are you definitely one of those people that are like, yes, you have to send in a cover letter?
Yep. Again, it's really going to depend on the recruiter if they're going to appreciate those or not. Some love them, some hate them, some don't care either way. And I think if there's an option for it and you're really trying to sell yourself, it never hurts to go a little above and beyond, especially since in a cover letter, you can dive a little deeper than you can in a resume, which has to be shortened due to brevity, right? And with the cover letter, you can target a little bit more information.
Let's go a little further on that. Since, Patricia brought it up earlier and we have you here, I saw a great video on LinkedIn. I think it was yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I don't know if it was LinkedIn specifically. I think it was. LinkedIn was going around interviewing folks about the cover letter. Do you need a cover letter? That was the question. And I can tell you that I think it was 5 different people interviewed. The hiring managers that were younger said absolutely not. The hiring managers that were a little further along in their career said absolutely. It's a great opportunity to introduce yourself and show a little bit more about who you are.
That's interesting.
And I say that because to me that said you never know who's going to be looking at your resume or your cover letter, err on the side of caution. But is that accurate? It sounds like it may be.
So yeah, I would just say use best judgment on it. I always use a cover letter myself. And it's never turned me wrong. But again, you really never know who's on the other side of that hiring decision. So, yeah.
Okay.
That is true. Yeah. So I guess safe to say do it just in case they want it.
Yes.
Wouldn't hurt.
All right.
Hate a cover
letter. Yeah. Gives you a chance to brag about yourself very quickly.
I can brag in bullet points. You can look at my resume. You can see what I've done. I don't need to just regurgitate what's on my resume in sentences.
You're trying to get the job, right?
Yeah, well, I got this one. Did I submit a cover letter for this job? I don't know.
I probably didn't read it.
Exactly.
So Jacob, since we have you here, the positives of generative AI are, if you had to list a couple, what would they be?
I would say the positives is if you're having writer's block or you're not sure how to sell yourself, it could really give you that kind of edge to get some ideas on how to do that or how to phrase it if you're not the greatest at structuring a sentence.
Okay. We got a bunch of people out in the interweb right now watching. And since, we've been pretty focused on AI for the resume, well, I want to take advantage of the fact that you're here. Tell the folks your top 3 tips for creating their resume.
Sure. Use the job posting to tailor it to that. You don't want to avoid you want to have all those standard hot words and hot phrases that's going to be in there, right? So those keywords and key phrases. But you also want to hit some of those key duties. So let's say you're looking at a finance manager in the manufacturing world. Well, if you're in finance, you may have done it in the manufacturing world, and you may have done it in, let's say, the marketing world. you want to tailor your bullet points more towards the manufacturing side for that specific role, or find some of those duties that you've done in one of those jobs and focus on that, right? So not just the keywords, but the key duties as well. Make it accomplishment based, so brag about yourself. Think of some of the things you've accomplished and you've been awarded. Kind of touch up on those, and I would say don't use templates. Write it yourself, because there's a lot of things in templates that'll make your resume ATS fail ATS compliance, right? So,
Love it.
yep.
And
Can
one more
you
time.
can you
Sorry.
remind us what ATS compliance is?
Sure. So the applicant tracking system is a software that scans over resumes to review job titles, company names, dates, keywords, key phrases, things of that nature. And if you don't hit a certain percentage of that, you're going to be kicked out. And I think the last study I saw, 75% of resumes get kicked out by ATS before they're even seen by the manager.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a
Wow.
lot of that's going to be some of those similar, like having borders on your resume will kind of decrease that parsability. You're going to have a lot of times you'll see little drop down arrows that'll hide your information or bring it down. That will also hinder ATS compliability. And then if you're using images on there to replace education or things like that, it can only read text. You can't read images. So you're going to be missing out on that. And if you're using multiple columns, ATS can only read one column.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yep.
Really, really good tips. And I love to geek out on the resume. Tell us the best fonts and the best formats.
Sure. So some of the best formats, I would say, it depends on where you're at in your career. There is the reverse chronological, there's a chronological, there's the infographic, there's the typical like European CV, there's skills based or functional resumes. And so if you've been to a lot of jobs throughout a year or a couple of years, and you're thinking, wow, well, how do I hide all this job hopping? Well, then a skills based resume is going to be your best bet. If you have good work tenure, a reverse chronological may be your best bet. And if you're going to, let's say, a career fair, but you want to spice things up a little bit, maybe an infographic resume would be your best bet on that one,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
So things to think about when you're actually drafting the resume.
What about the font to use?
Sure. So some of the most popular ones are going to be like Times New Roman, Didot, Garamond. And you're going to be wanting to use the fonts that don't have tails because they're more easily read by ATS.
That don't have
Tails. So the
Oh, got it.
non-sans serif fonts, right? And then
Hmm.
some of the ones that are an exception to that would be like Times New Roman, right? So
Got it. Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Richie, you want to grab the question here?
Yeah, I was going to say we have somebody from LinkedIn, Thomas Thompson, who is asking consolidating multiple jobs that are in the same field versus listing them out on your resume, because bullet points add up after a while. And I know
Yeah.
you've spoken about multiple page resumes before. So how exactly would that work? Thank you for the question, Thomas.
Sure. Yeah. So if you're looking at a resume, you're fine going into the second page as long as that second page hits the 50%. So in order to hide, let's say, older positions or positions with short work tenure, things like that, you can make an additional experience section where you can consolidate all of those jobs into one block and then just list out maybe 5 to 8 bullet points that cover all of those roles, right? And so that's something I do all the time. It's something I did a lot at Indeed.com when I worked there as one of their resume writers. And if you're just talking about even recent roles where you're a project manager for ABC company, and then you're a project manager for, DEF company, but DEF was the recruiter, and then you got hired on later, it's fine to combine those. You're working for the same company in the end. You're working on the same job site. So it's fine to consolidate those. If there's two like jobs that you just feel like should be combined because they're too similar, use your best judgment. I generally wouldn't do that unless one was like 2 months long. Then it's, it's really not long enough to justify its own block. But if it's been long work tenure on both of them, I'd probably just give them their own block. So it depends on how your resume is looking, how your work tenure is looking, and what your objective is with the specific job posting.
I love the question. Great advice. Love it. I remember years ago when I was looking for a creative role somewhere, I thought, I'll create a video resume and I'll send it to everybody. I'm guessing that's not a good idea these days.
Again, hit or miss. Some people may love it.
Really?
Yeah. Some people may hate it. A lot of the times, it could help you stand out. I would never do it, honestly,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't view it as super professional.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to depend on that recruiter. I've heard some recruiters tell me they love them. I've heard some recruiters tell me they hate them.
Well,
So,
I didn't do it, so it was probably smart. Yeah.
so my thing is stay the middle of the road, keep everything right down the center. If it seems like it may get too outlandish one way or the other, just bring it down a notch.
Don't overthink it. I love that. Fantastic advice.
Need to take that advice to all facets.
Agreed. Yes. Keep it at 500. Good. All right. That's really all we had for you, Jacob. If you don't mind, I'm gonna keep you around just in case any other questions happen to pop up for the next couple of seconds here while we close things. But as always, it's great talking to you, and love all the information you provide.
Thank you so much.
All right.
We could probably pick apart 8,000 more resume questions for you, but we're not sure on your Friday.
Just come to one of my resume classes.
Well,
do you wanna plug that? Do you want to talk about that?
Actually,
One of your resume?
yeah, you should.
Okay, sure. So I developed a resume class. So I've every job I've ever been to, I've taught resumes to the entire department, or even sometimes the entire company.
Nice.
And so I did that with the state of Kentucky as well. So I built one here specifically for us that I use to kind of teach my team how to write resumes. So it's right now just a kind of a closed training, but hopefully we'll be able to kind of open that up soon.
Sorry to do a little live production here, but I think that's a great opportunity for us to maybe feature one of your classes here.
Okay.
And to have you do that, or either maybe do a special like late night whenever you do the training. We could actually stream that out for folks because I'm sure that would help.
It's a long one. Honestly, it's a 4.5 hour training.
Even better.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We can talk about it.
Okay. Sounds good.
4.5 hours is a long time. But maybe
it is, but it's necessary. I mean, I would say that is completely necessary and warranted.
See what happens when you ideate live. You don't ask more questions, and here we are with a 4.5 hour webinar.
But seriously, I mean, we could pick apart resumes for. I mean, I could talk for another half an hour, so I imagine that 4 hours goes by pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm helping you out, Jacob. I'm on your side with this.
Oh,
I love it.
I understand that class is more for the team to kind of help them, everybody understand the ins and outs of how to help students with resumes. But I'm sure there's some nuggets there. But anyway, we'll talk about it. I love it. I love it. So let's recap just the full discussion. AI is a good tool, a good resource. Use it sparingly. Don't use it as a crutch. Jacob is a little more on the side of maybe don't use it at all for your resume or cover letter, but use it to inspire you a little bit. Use it to help kind of get the process started, if I'm hearing things correctly. But you should be creating that document on your own, which is fantastic advice. And I actually pulled this. They're a recruiting company out of Australia for some reason. Michael Page had just a quick pros and cons, and I wanted to share those. The pros: provides a starting point for inspiration. It saves time with formatting help, and it can suggest relevant keywords. So a few things we haven't touched on from articles. So I wanted to share those. Cons: recruiters can detect the use of AI. Everything looks the same, and there's a lack of personal touch, which of course Jacob nailed, and we all just kind of talked about and went through. Yeah. Just wanted to share that. Wanted to thank everybody for joining us. I hope this was helpful. We will be touching on resume tips and employment tips just about every 4 weeks on this program. So if there's something you really want us to dig into around that topic, let us know. We'll certainly be having folks back from our career services team. We'll have Jacob back at some point as well, Jacob, you have an open invitation anytime you want to join us. Hopefully you know that. But in the meantime, just want to thank everybody for joining us today, as we always do. Had a really fun time talking about this topic, and I hope it was helpful for all of you, or at least for a few folks. So with that said, did I miss anything, Patricia?
You did not. I think we
Okay.
hit it all.
All right. Thank you for doing all you do in this thing, Patricia. Brought a lot to this one for sure. And also, I just wanted to mention very quickly before we head out, My Computer Career. We just launched a brand new website as of 2 days ago. Jacob, do you know this?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's exciting stuff.
It is. So, yes, right on top of it. There's Patricia. This is brand new. So it offers, I think, an easier customer experience. It's easier to navigate. And you'll see it's just a single page as you move through here. It's reactive. It's mobile reactive. So there's a lot here to dig into. So I'd recommend, if you haven't, jump in, take a look around. And I think the website is going to be a fun, a good experience for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, enough rambling from me. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We're not going to be here next week because of the holiday, but we will circle back around in 2 weeks. So we'll see you then at noon. In the meantime, be well, and we'll see you then. All right? Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.